Misinformation legislation is taking off around the world, Australia becoming the latest country to crack down on social media, introducing a bill that could fine platforms for failing to prevent, quote, misinformation. Could a law like that happen here under Harris? Back in 2019, she made her thoughts pretty clear.
We will hold social media platforms accountable. If you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
There has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation, and that has to stop.
Our next guest has been following this from the beginning in his Twitter Files probe of Brazil, Michael Shellenberger. He is the CBR chair of free speech at the University of Austin, and he joins us now. Michael, it's great to have you back. So are you surprised that censorship, even surveillance, that these issues aren't taking more of a center stage in this election? Because it's very clear that from what we're seeing abroad in some of these Western countries, that it's coming here.
Yeah, that's right. It's great to be with you.
It's already been here, Michael. I apologize. It's already been here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for me, it should be the number one issue, because if you do not have free speech, then you cannot have free and fair elections, and you don't have democracy. Right. You know, our country was founded on the idea that the government doesn't give us permission to have free speech. Free speech is an inalienable right given to us by God, and it comes before the government. So we have free speech to decide what the government is. You know, we're seeing it around the world. It's quite shocking. We're seeing it in the European Union, Ireland, Brazil, Britain, and now in Australia, Canada. Both Australia and Canada have taken very aggressive actions. You may recall that earlier this year, the Australian government had attempted to ban, not just in Australia, but around the world, content that it didn't like. And now we're seeing this new attack. I think where this is headed is that they want to ban X in Australia, and that this is the first step towards doing that. It's terrifying because they're attempting to censor us in the United States in part by getting censorship in other countries that then would ban content in the United States. And as you just saw there, both Kamala Harris and her vice presidential candidate, Tim Walz, have both endorsed government censorship. I mean, it's shocking to say government censorship of what we're allowed to say online.
Yeah, it's really, I'm so glad you make that connection between, you know, censorship, democracy, our elections in so many ways. I mean, I just think Elon Musk, at least the state of things right now in the United States, I think we'd be having a different election right now if we didn't have the freedom of X, right?
Yeah, that's right. I think it's important for people to understand that they're trying to censor X, formerly Twitter, not because there's misinformation there, but because there's information there, there's truth there that governments don't want us to see. You know, one of the tells that you know that these are government people trying to censor us is that they never talk about the misinformation that the governments have been putting out. The governments put out misinformation about so many different things, whether it's the idea that the vaccines will prevent you from getting COVID, or that it did not come from a lab. We've seen hoax after hoax from government officials spreading disinformation. They're trying to shut down the social media platforms, not because they're sources of misinformation, but because they're sources of accurate information that contradicts the propaganda and the disinformation that the politicians themselves and these government officials are putting out.
It's so true. One person's misinformation is another person's inconvenient truth, right? They just don't want it.
Absolutely.
You're right. The social media has been used as a source of propaganda, both to push what they want us to see or keep us from seeing what they don't want us to see. So, Mike, you're just such a great voice on this. You've been a fighter for freedom of speech here and abroad, and I think doing a really good job of warning us that it certainly could come here in even greater form than we've seen in the past, which was bad enough. Michael, thanks for joining us.
Good.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.